Okay, now it's time to talk about probably the most talked about things in Pennyland: shorting, dilution, and then we're going to continue to factor in reality. Actually, we're going to be full bore reality now. No more this kind of perfect little market stuff anymore. But shorting and dilution, that's what everybody talks about. So that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to cover everything that you want to know about it from the level 2 perspective. Like I just hinted, in the land of penny stocks, or as some people call it, the penny stock wilderness, shorting and dilution are two words that you will see all the time. If you've spent any time on social media, message boards, chat rooms, the blogs, what have you, these are two words that, if I was forced to say, guarantee me two words that I'm going to see if I go on a penny stock message board, my first two would be shorting and dilution. I guarantee you're going to see those somewhere. But the thing is, they always are getting blamed for the wrong things. So in this video, we're going to talk about, what is shorting, just a quick little establishment of that. We're not going to go into great detail or anything like that, just because that doesn't pertain to this course, but do have to understand what's going on with shorting. We're going to talk about what's dilution in a very just simplistic way to get that established. And then why for traders, it doesn't even matter. So that may seem a little odd, but at the end of the day, shorting, dilution, who cares? Doesn't matter. But nonetheless, we're going to figure out how you can see it and how you can spot what's going on with it. And that's what we're going to use level 2s for. That's what level 2s are great for, determining if this stuff is happening. Sometimes it's not, but regardless. And as complicated as some may make it seem, this concept is very straightforward and easy to do and see, as I hinted at in the previous video. And just to issue an apologies, my apologies to all the pumpers out there who like to blame a falling stock price on the evil short sellers, and or Emma manipulation. Sorry, the people that are taking this course are going to be able to see straight through your BS and just see the truth. So again, my apologies to all of you pumpers. Your typical go-to name and blame games when it's probably you actually selling the stock. Sorry. The traders that have taken this course are now going to be able to see straight through your tactics. So again, sorry to the pumpers. So what is shorting? Shorting is selling of a stock because you think it will go down in price. Now, in order to make money with shorting, you must buy back, or what is known as covering. So when someone says I have to cover, that means they must buy back the shares you originally sold. Very key things here that are being said. Yes, there is selling at the beginning of the process, but in order to make money as a short trader, you must buy the stock back. You must buy the stock back. You must buy the stock back. A little bit important there. I think I hopefully drove that home. Now, the vast majority of time, this is not happening in penny stocks. You're thinking, what are you talking about? The message board person, this random stranger, told me that it's shorting. It's not happening, and I'm going to show you why that's the case. One easy reason is broker fees alone make it essentially not worth it. And then you talk about the whole risk versus reward, which I'm not going to get into in this course because it doesn't pertain, but just know that shorting most of the time is not happening in penny stocks. But those people on the message boards and social media, boy oh boy, do they like to blame things on shorting. But that's not what's going on, and it's very easy to recognize if there is shorting going on. And as we're going to see, it's very easy to recognize and use level 2s to determine that. Now, dilution is the selling of a stock that increases the float, and the float is just the tradable shares that are out there. Those are the shares that are exchanging hands on a routine basis. But when dilution is happening, that pool, that allotment of shares gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So from an economic standpoint, the more supply that happens, it's just going to be harder for things to continue to move at the same rate if there's more supply. And dilution is done by CEOs and third-party financiers. Third-party financiers in the sense of, they're usually taking their restricted stocks and now selling them out into the float. Whereas the CEO can just take shares from the authorized shares and sell them out into the float. But again, share structure, don't let any of that confuse you. Just know that dilution is the selling of a stock. And that's really the key thing for here. And the more and more it happens, the harder and harder it will become for the share price to rise. Like I said, all this stuff, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's all just a distraction. It's all the way for people to try to take your mind off of what really matters. Ask yourself this: what makes traders money in the market as they trade stocks? So when you are trading, what is going to make you money? It's whether or not the price rises or falls. That's it. There's way too many people that freak out and panic at the first sighting of either seeing or hearing the words shorting or dilution. Why? What's going on with the price? That's what matters. And this is just an amateur way of thinking. And if you can hear in my voice, it drives me nuts because I can't stand it. I mean, whatever. At the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do, but don't take your eye off the ball. The thing is a price rising or is it falling? That's what's going to dictate whether or not you're making money. If there's dilution going on and the price is still going up, then who cares if there's dilution going on? Is it worth noting? Yes, but do you need to freak out? And, remember that the police officer that pulls in your rearview mirror, do you need to pull over to the side of the road? No, absolutely not. So just keep that in mind. Now, the big distinction for traders is, who cares if it is happening? Like I said, does not matter. We only care about how it affects the risk context. That is what matters. Not that it is happening, but just how is it affecting the risk context, and we're going to get into that more. But we have the 3 layers of risk context, and we need to manage the risk. So this just adds another layer that must be added into our risk analysis. So again, I want to say this again. Maybe I should have highlighted it. But as traders, we do not care if it is happening. The only thing we care about, so that is happening, who cares? But how it affects the risk context, that's what we want. Because remember, as traders, we are risk managers, and we need to factor in everything that may affect the risk. And yes, dilution, shorting could affect the risk. But in terms of whether or not we really care at the end of the day that it is happening, then no, that's not a big deal. So just keep that in mind. If we were hanging out, you'd see me waving my hands around and talking with my hands because I'm pretty passionate about this topic. There's just so many people that get distracted from the ball and don't understand how you should look at shorting or dilution. Should you look at dilution in terms of freak out mode? No. Should you look at it as just another layer of context that you need to factor into your risk analysis? Yes. So shorting, let's get some key principles to remember and consider. First one, the sell happens first. We establish that a sell occurs because people think the price is going to go down. But because you're selling, you are borrowing those shares, and when you borrow something, you need to return it back. So in order to return it back, you need to buy. So a buy happens second. A buy happens second. A buy happens second. Let's keep that in mind. So money is made if the price goes down. Money is lost if the price goes up. So think about that. You make money by it going down. What's the farthest it can go? 0. Now, money is lost if it goes up. So theoretically, losses can be infinite because the stock price can go up and up and up and up and up. In other words, short sellers have a high incentive to become buyers if the trade goes against them and the price rises. So again, if the price rises, short sellers who are more than likely very disciplined because they're short selling penny stocks, they have a high they should have a high discipline level and high incentive, high motivation, where if the price starts to go against them, all right, I want out, and for them to get out, they have to say it with me. It starts with the B. They have to buy. Okay, you just remember that. I'm emphasizing this because it's gonna debunk all the misconceptions out there about people short selling and all that stuff, and it's going to make sense too from the level 2 perspective on how we can recognize if it's going on. So let's revisit our marketplace and take a look at a few more scenarios. It's going to be a little bit different now. We're going to only focus on the short sellers. Everybody else's story, we don't really care about that anymore. We just want to focus on the stories of the short sellers here that we're going to encounter. So if you were kind of all about, I like Slick Willie and I like the ballerina and the Canadian, no more of their personal stories. We're gonna put our attention, put all our energy into what's going on with the short sellers. We will have a quick little review though. We have ARCA, the professional trader, Knight, Grandma, VFin, Billy Bob, HDSN, Mutual Fund, the River Van trader using E-Trade, ETRD, and then our young couple using Micah. Our other participants, we got Slick Willie, we got the ballerina, our stockbroker, and our Canadian, and now we have 3 new people that enter into our market. First is going to be a hippie, and her representative, her puppet, is UBSS. We have one of these financiers, and this financer is going to be Vert. And then we have another financer. This financer is VD or VNDM. These two should look pretty familiar to you from our reputation video in the previous one, and then also right here should also look pretty familiar to you. So keep those reputations in mind. Not quite yet, but just keep those in mind. We're getting some more familiar faces, I should say, within our marketplace. So here is our marketplace right now, all summarized with our level 2s. You can see, it doesn't really matter now who's who. The level 2s aren't going to tell us that anyways. But just to follow the journey now on our shorters, we have the professional trader, ARCA. So he's still using the ECN. So that's going to show us share size. Why do I bring that up? Well, look, welcome to reality. No more knowing how much everybody wants to buy or sell. As you saw in the last video, share size with penny stocks, essentially irrelevant. Sometimes you'll get lucky and see something, but most of the times it's going to look like this. So we're going to learn on the worst case, most realistic scenario. So our perfect little market continues to deteriorate, and now we're getting more and more into reality. So don't know how much anybody wants to sell, except ARCA, since he's an ECN. He wants to go short 40,000 shares. So that's a little bit of trading talk. If you hear somebody go short, what does he want to do? What's the first step in shorting? If you entered selling, perfect. Therefore, there is his order right there at 6 cents. And then we have Sieb. He wants to sell, or he wants to go short, which means he wants to sell 175,000 shares at a price of 0.063. But because of those default sizes, nobody has any idea that he is going to look to short 175,000 shares. Right now, you're maybe thinking, what are you talking about, Clay? Look at all this shorting that is about to go on. This is going to drive the price down. Well, we shall see. So now we really start to get more realistic here. We need to start to understand everything that we've learned in order to get an idea of what's going on. Keyword being, get an idea of what is going on. Are we going to know for sure what's going on? No, that's just not realistic, but we're going to get an idea, and that's why level 2s are great, because it at least gives us the idea. If you're not using level 2, then you're really trading blind, because you really have no idea. All you're looking at is that level 1 stock price, and you just see one price flashing, and that's it. That's you don't have no shot at getting an idea. So the tape appears like this all of a sudden. Boom, time A, B, C, D. You see all those orders happen. So let's just kind of stop and think about what's going on. And after you see the tape, now level 2s appear like this. So some good quiz questions here. So what actually happened? Looking at level 2. So let's do this. Before, now. Before, if you need to pause it. Now. So where are some differences here? What can we tell from some things? Well, let's go on to the next slide. And just look. I want you to, if you need to pause it again. But what do you notice? What has changed? What do you think might be going on here? So pause it, take as much time as you want, and then let's move on to the next slide. So we have a very high suspicion, very high logic that River Van Trader has purchased. What makes us say that? Well, E-Trade, who was on the bid over there, showing that he had partial motivation, something must have changed for him, because E-Trade is now nowhere to be seen over here on the bid. Does that really matter? No, but it's just kind of one of those things where, level 2s does show some things of what's going on. Do we know for certain? No, but we have a pretty good idea that, all right, it looks like E-Trade disappeared from the bid all of a sudden, and then this order shows up on the tape. Okay, he must have bought. Now, what does that also tell us about the hippie? She wanted to sell some shares at 0.063. Notice how the hippie is gone. Hippie being gone, being defined as UBSS, her representative being gone. So, okay, it looks like the hippie got rid of some of her shares that she wanted to sell. The other thing is, it's looking like ARCA probably got filled, because remember, ARCA, the professional trader, wanted to sell 40. Well, look, lo and behold, right there on the tape, 40 flashed, ARCA disappeared. And then stockbroker Sieb. Did they get any shares sold? Maybe a partial fill. You don't know, because you had all these orders. Remember, Sieb was sitting up here at 0.063. They wanted 175,000 shares. Obviously, when you add up these numbers and then the add to zero rule, that's not still adding up. So they probably got a partial fill, meaning they got some of their shares. We don't know. We have no idea how many, but we can suspect that hippie got hers because she's gone. UBSS, her puppet, is now off the ask, but Sieb is still sitting there. So how many is Sieb short? We do not know. It could be from somebody outside the market that is participating in slapping the ask too. So remember that ballerina situation, got home, and then all of a sudden decided. So that's why we can't know for sure if it was E-Trade, because maybe it could have been where the stars aligned. E-Trade changed their mind, just canceled their order, but at that same time, somebody else from the outside that was interested now was converted into highly motivated and hit the ask. I mean, you don't know, but odds are I'm guessing that E-Trade decided to buy, and that's why right when E-Trade disappeared from over here, an order showed up on the tape. So to me, that's a very logical conclusion to come to. So these are some things to consider. Now we're getting into a lot of kind of unknowns. In the first, when the market was perfect, it was so-and-so bought this many shares. That's why their shares are now look like this amount. And then you had this person that not so much of that anymore. It's a lot of I don't knows, but we're still getting we're getting the flavor of things. We're getting the idea of what's going on. Mainly, a bunch of orders just hit the ask. People were buying from the people up on stage, and the market makers changed a little bit. UBSS is gone, and a couple other things to notice. Now SEAB SEAB is now showing some action over here on the bid. Now let's talk about ARCA. Did our professional trader short too? Well, because we have behind the scenes knowledge, we know he did short, but look what happened on the level twos. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but let's just talk through it. Remember when ARCA was on the best ask? He was the inside ask. Well, immediately after disappearing, or very soon after, it can be either or in the real world, but pretty darn soon after disappearing from the ask because he got his shares, have you anybody noticed where ARCA is? Is he still in the market? And if so, where is he? Well, he's now appeared over on the bid side. Why would that be? In fact, within our scenario, at first, ARCA showed up at 0.055, and then soon after was at 0.05. So on the message boards and stuff, or social media, whatever, ARCA's jumping all over the place. Oh, ARCA, he's playing games. He's trying to manipulate things. Look at ARCA moving all over the place. No, it was just a stock trader saying at first, I want to try to buy shares at 0.055 because I am now short. And then he changed his mind and said, no, I think I'll just go for 5. So there ARCA is right here. So kind of brings up the question, are you seeing why shorting is not really anything to be scared of? Yes, there was some extra, there is some extra selling pressure. However, what happens to the bid side as soon as the short is made or very soon after? Remember, short sellers are very disciplined if they are shorting. They want to make profits. But what happened to the bid? The bid grew in strength. The bid got stronger because now less people on the ask over here, and now you have ARCA that wants to buy. Why does he want to buy? Because that's the second part of the shorting equation. That's going to be the first little clue into, is it shorting or is it dilution? Well, ARCA was over here, and people could be blaming ARCA as being a short, and they would be right. However, he's right over here now, and he just increased the bid strength. Now there's one more market maker over here that wants to buy at 5 cents or above. Could the price fall down some? Yeah, it could fall down here, but ARCA is going to be supporting it. It's not like ARCA just continues to shorting, driving the price down, because at some time he's got to buy those shares back. And it's going to be, it's not, they drive it all the way down to 0001 and that's where they buy. No, that's in the world of rainbows and lollipops and unicorns. That's not how it works. Shorting traders are disciplined, and they're going to be over there providing support. ARCA, he'd be happy if the price came down here, but, if the price drops, boom, 5 cents, and if it drops any more below 5 cents, that's just because, there's more selling pressure. But it's not like ARCA was over here continuing to short. No, he was providing bid support. He was getting shares covered by buying. So remember that. Shorters become buyers. Buyers hang out over on the bid. So as soon as they short, the bid is going to be getting stronger because they need to buy back shares. Or heck, maybe the price drops down to, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but I'm just going to keep going with it. Maybe the price over here drops down to 6 cents, and ARCA's like, you know what? I'm changing my mind. I just want to get out even. I want to just break even because remember he shorted at 6 cents. So let's say somebody brings down let me rephrase. Let's say somebody brings down the ask to 0.058. So he's like, okay, I could make a quick little score there. I sold at 0.06 and now I can buy back cheaper at 0.058. What does ARCA potentially do? ARCA might just slap the ask. So now this shorter is slapping the ask, which is even better than buying on the bid. He's buying from somebody up on stage. So, again, I'm trying to drive home. Shorts could be providing bid support, or they could start slapping the ask. And as we go through this scenario, you're going to see what happens. But it's nothing to be panicking about. Shorts don't cause the price to go down because shorts ultimately are either providing bid support or they're going to have to start to slap the ask and start buying from people up on stage if they want. So it's shorting. There's two sides to the equation of shorting. It's not just selling, unlike something else that we're about to get to. Well, just as I was about to move on to the next slide, I noticed. Let's talk about Seeb. Maybe you caught me there and was like, hey, wait a second. Yeah, I see Arca over there, but look at Seeb. He went over to the bid too. So what does that tell us about Seeb? Well, we kind of already talked about this, but Seeb, a logical conclusion must have been he must have gotten a partial fill. There were some orders that happened up here at 0.063. So we know all those orders went off there. And we know Seeb got, or bad choice of words. We have a good idea that Seeb got filled because what happened with Seeb? Well, you probably hopefully already noticed that he's all of a sudden on the best bid. So what just happened? Seeb got some shares filled. He is shorting, evil shorter. But then look, like Arca, he's helping to build the bid. The bid just got 2 more MMs over here because because shorters become what? Buyers. So again, just an example right there of why watching level 2s, makes a little sense. Okay, Seeb, that's weird. He was on the ask and wasn't over here, but then after these ask slaps happened, now all of a sudden he's over here on the best bid. Maybe he's short, but I mean, if he's short, he's become a buyer, and now he's providing bid support over here, on the bid side of the box. So I don't see anything too much evil about that. I just see that's kind of a marketplace. And remember, Seeb at any time could also start slapping the ask because shorters are buyers. And what I should have said earlier is the reason I love shorters, especially on penny stocks, is because they become a guaranteed buyer. Guaranteed buyer. Shorters become a guaranteed buyer because they're short, they borrowed, so they need to return those shares back. There's no ands, ifs, buts about it. They are taking on a loan of shares from somebody else, so they have to buy. So does it get any better than a guaranteed buyer? And that's what a short is. So to me, it's one of those things where bring on the shorts. The more shorting, the better, because I love guaranteed buyers. So now let's take this scenario to the next step with our shorters, and we got the hippie here. So we're going to cover going short on the bid. What we saw previously was going short on the ask, meaning the people that were sitting up there on stage, people bought from them, so they were able to short on the ask. But shorts can also go short by bid whacking, or like I said, Trading Talk going short on the bid. So to update things, the hippie now wants in at 6 cents. The short, but also keep in mind, I'm not giving price level. I'm not going to give how many she wants just because we don't know anymore. That's not convenient. The level 2s aren't going to show us how many she wants. The only things that's really going to give us an idea is the tape. But she just wants back in at 06. Now, Seeb, a client calls him screaming, "Just get me short now. I don't care what the price is. Do your job or I'm going to find another puppet." So Seeb wanting to be a good puppet, all right, I will get you your shares short. Now again, we used to know how many shares they wanted to go short, but at this point we don't know because we don't know who those ass slaps on the tape, we don't know who those went to. We know people were buying from people up on stage, but Seeb waiting in line. How many did he get? We don't know. So that's why that's up there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But even if we could understand all that, it's still limited information anyway. So we don't know how many the client still needs to get short. But Seeb, like I said, wants to be a good puppet, so he is going to get short at all costs. And when the client becomes super motivated, there's only one thing: they're going to have to sell on the bid. So they're going to have to start bid whacking. Now maybe you're thinking, wait a second, down here at level 2s, that's currently it is. So if Seeb has to start bid whacking, you're saying he's just going to bid whack himself, and just that would make no sense. He would be taking a loss there. You are right. So if you notice that, good job. But this is another little clue where MMs can be revealing in what their clients are telling them to do. And then along with that, their client might be saying, you better not be bid whacking at 0.056. I want more money. Just get me short. Don't worry about it. Now remember, the hippie, UBSS, her puppet, showed up. They want to buy at 6. So yes, Seeb disappears from the bid, but we have the hippie that wants to all of a sudden re-enter at 6. So there we go. Best bid now becomes 6. Third, the level 2 appears just like this. So we've covered that. And then finally the tape appears as this. So the bid whacking starts, boom at 6, boom at 6, boom at 6, and some big orders are going through. Remember, we have to use the add 2 0 rule. So add a couple of zeros to that. Let's see, what would that be? 160,000, 55,000, and 100,000. So there was some bid whacks in there. I mean, some big size orders. I mean, you look at the size of orders compared to this, compared to these bid whacks. So here we go. That evil short is bid whacking. And yes, I'll admit that shorts can bid whack, and that's exactly what SEEB's doing right now for their client. They are bid whacking. So after all that tape action, the level now appears like this. How do we know that SEEB got rid of or shorted their position? Well, two things. Well, I take that back. One thing right now. SEEB is now gone from the ask or has moved, way far back to a different price. So SEEB is now short. However, notice a hippie still sitting at the best bid. What does that possibly tell us? It tells us that UBSS has a huge order sitting there. So remember, we don't know that, and we've never known how many the hippie wants to buy, but given that these big orders just hit 0.06 and UBSS is still sitting there, that's a big order to absorb. So there's a whole lot of there's a lot of bid whacking going on, but despite that, it didn't do anything to UBSS. The hippie is still sitting there. UBS is still sitting there. So the professional notices this right away, and because he is disciplined, he takes action. So remember, these traders that are shorting, they understand stuff. They just noticed. Remember, they're using game theory too, and as a short who is highly motivated to not get completely crushed on the short side, is thinking that does not look good. Wow, that was a huge bid whack. That was a bunch of bid whacks. And UBSS didn't even move. Not so good. And that's the thing where, this is going to lead as we go forward. People always try to blame the shorts for a falling price. No, it's not the shorts. It's the company. If the company is worth buying, people are going to be there bidding like Hippie is right now. I don't know what this company is, but let's say it's a halfway decent company, or at least in this point in time, there's a lot of belief in the company. There's all sorts of belief. So UBSS is sitting there ready to load the boat. So the shorters are hitting the bid, and look what happened. It didn't do anything because the stock is strong in belief. So don't blame shorters. If the company is strong enough, if the belief in the company is strong enough, then the shorters, their sells aren't going to do anything. Or they might do very little, or as we're about to find out, it's going to get people in trouble. So when you see other people blaming the shorts, no, they're pointing the finger at the wrong thing. It's not the short, it's something else. It's either dilution, or there's just not enough interest in the company to be able to support any sort of diluting or shorting. But as we've already learned too, my statement doesn't make sense because shorters become buyers anyway, so they're going to be over on the bid. So do you see how shorting and blaming shorting really doesn't make sense on any level? But the point being here, there's big belief in the stock. UBSS has demonstrated that big belief because there was big bid whacks that just happened, and UBS is still sitting there. And there was a short that did the bid whacking. But remembered, guaranteed buyers, that's what we want. Guaranteed buyers on a stock that has lots of belief surrounding it. Good. So let's now move on to scenario 3. Get some more trader talk here. So we're going to talk about covering and then the short squeeze. A lot of people always blame short squeezes, and it never quite happens. But yes, there are short squeezes out there, and this is why shorts are a beautiful thing. So let's just update things. Hippie still wants to enter back in at 6. Wait a second. I thought you said Hippie already got some shares. I don't know, did she? Does UBSS have other clients they're representing? Maybe it's Hippie's brother or Hippie's, who knows who it is. But remember, market makers can represent multiple clients. So there we go. We're getting more into reality here. So still wants back in at 06. So she could have gotten a partial fill. I don't know. She could have gotten 0 shares. If she got 0 shares, think about that. All those bid whacks happened, and Hippie still hasn't gotten any shares. Well, then there must be some pretty big demand down there at 06. 06 might be some sort of support level. Well, we don't know, though. We don't know how many more people. All we know is that the tape showed us big bid whacks, and yet the bid did not move. UBSS is still sitting there. And that leads right into the thing of, or the point of, Arc of the Professional Trader thinks, eek, yikes, that was a huge bid whack, and the bid didn't even budge. Not good. Time to mitigate my risk. So what is he going to do to mitigate his risk? Well, let's keep on chugging forward here. So looking at the level 2s now, do you notice where ARCA is? Right up there at the inside bid, best bid. Now, of course, on the level, or out in the land of message boards and conspiracy theories, ARCA's playing all sorts of games, trying to manipulate. He's trying to crash the stock. What's going on? He's blah blah blah. All that garbage, all that nonsense out there. But no, ARCA is trying to be a disciplined trader and control his risk. In fact, right now he's willing to take a loss. Because think about it. At first, his initial short was at 6 cents. Now he's saying, you know what? I don't like that big bid whack that happened. I just want to get out. The short, that entry point's not looking as good as what I thought it was. So I would just like to get out and I'll take a minor loss, lick my wounds, and move on. So he's trying to be a good, disciplined trader, take a small loss and move on. So take a small loss for the short would be they're going to have to buy back in higher than what they sold for. So he's trying to buy back in at 0.061. But what all sudden just happened there? The bid got even stronger. So this action on ARCA's part brings the attention of other traders, both in and outside the market. In are the people that are already being represented. Outside are the ballerinas that are maybe getting home from practice that we don't know about, but they're watching. They're interested, but they're not partially motivated yet. However, now people are watching this saying, "Oh, that's interesting. Look at the bid now. Now there's 2 market makers up at 6." So 6 seems to be becoming even more of a logical area to think. Okay, 6 cents might be that's starting to make more and more sense that it's a level of support. Now Slick Willie, LAFC, and Knight. Now we're not sure if it's Graham or Ballerina because Knight has multiple clients just like these other market makers. But we know for sure that Knight represents Grandma or Ballerina. Their motivational level increases, and now therefore they want to buy at 0.065. So, noticing all this stuff, all right, this looks good. I want in at 0.065. I want in at 0.065 too. And then one more little wrinkle here is that a third-party financer starts to notice this action. Wow, there's the market makers are the bid is building. There's more people being interested at a higher level. That's good. So this financer, who's his puppet is VNDM, says, you know what, VNDM, he put out a sell order at 12 cents. I got some cheap shares that I want to get unloaded on. So throw out some shares. Let's see what happens. So again, all sorts of stuff's going on. All financiers are getting involved. Motivations are changing. Blah, 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 blah. But level 2, again, beautiful. Quickly organizes everything for us. So Slick Willie up there at 0.065. Again, we don't know how many he wants to buy, but Slick Willie is now partially motivated. Whether that's Ballerina or Grandma, we don't know anymore. Also don't know how many shares they want. But what we do know is that 0.065 has just really increased, and as level 2s is looking pretty strong. So now, very safe assumption. Okay, it looks like 6 cents is for sure going to be a support level at the current state because people were willing to buy at 6 and then a little bit higher, and now you have people willing to buy at 0.065. So all right, size of the box over here above 6 has become quite a bit stronger. Now, the professional trader is not liking this bid action at all. Not at all. I mean, he's thinking, okay, that's not good. I wanted to just take a small loss. Now I'm going to have to... Things are just not looking too good for him right now. And I hope you realize the problem. The higher the price goes, the more money he loses. So now, the best case he could do, he could slap the ask right now at 7 cents. So that's what he decides to do is, you know what? I just want to get out and I just want to cover at the ask. So he wants to slap the ask at 7. There's a problem here, though. Well, first, let's just discuss this. What have I been saying? Guaranteed buyers. ARCA is now feeling some pain. He just wants to get out of the trade. So he's like, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to slap the ask and get out. But this is what happens when bids start to look good, when the bid starts to come to life, when spreads start to tighten down. It's going to draw the attention of more people. And he's a bit too slow when he puts in this order. And yes, he does put out an order, but a trader outside the market, so maybe Ballerina's sister just got home from her practice, and she puts in an order slightly ahead of his at 0.07. So now 2 orders are in at the same price. Well, who gets the shares? Well, we're about to find out. Before we go there, though, I want to make a quick note about SEEB. Let's not forget about that short. At this point in time, people could be saying, oh, SEEB shorted, SEEB shorted, SEEB shorted. Maybe, or not shorted, excuse me, diluted. Maybe, because they're nowhere to be found anywhere. That they've just completely disappeared. They were on the ask, and now they're gone. So right now, yeah, potential. I guess you could say dilution, but let's just keep on moving forward. But I don't want to forget about SEEB here because we are tracking 2 of our shorts. So remember, our professional trader said, you know what, I'm just going to slap the ask. I want to buy from the people up on stage for 7 cents. But then this outside person, also, you know, let's go back to our picture. They all of a sudden appeared at the auction, said, I'll take some at the ask too. And then the tape looks like this. So boom, boom, boom. Get some orders up there at 7. Well, what happens? Let's see. We had 400, 450, 500. So at least 500 shares went off. Of course, add 2 zeros, but I'm just going to talk about it like this. 500 shares went off at 7. VFin disappeared. So what does that tell us about VFin? Billy Bob was up there and he sold 500 shares. So Billy Bob had 50,000 shares for sale at, more than likely, we can guess, at 7 cents. He was the only market maker at 7 cents. 50,000 shares hit. He is now gone. He has moved back some. So, okay, VFin had 50,000 shares up there for sale at 50. What else can we notice now? Well, Arca is still over here now on the best bid. He wanted to buy at 7. However, this other mysterious, whoever this person was, they must have gotten the shares because Arca is still here. And now they're on the best bid at 7 because they didn't get anything. They told their broker, I'll pay anything up to 7. They didn't get anything at 7. So now they're the best bid because they're sitting there and Arca's like, all right, I'm trying, Mr. Client, you know, puppet master, I'm trying to get you your shares, but when I try to get yours at 7, when the people were up on the stage, somebody else got them. So now we just have to move to the front row of the crowd and be the best bid. So that's going on there. However, now look, SEEB all of a sudden shows back up on the bid. So it's one of those things where people are thinking, all right, SEEB was on the ask, but now they're over on the bid. You know, maybe they're shorting. I mean, yeah, you'd actually be absolutely right because now they're becoming buyers. Now look who the best bids are, the inside bids. They're both the shorts. Why would they be the shorts? Because they are guaranteed buyers. They don't have a choice at this point in time. They've already shorted. They need to get out of the share or out of the stock. How do they get out of the stock? They have to buy at this point in time. So, you know, if I was looking at this, and I can't remember what the next slide's going to say, but if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, all right, SEEB must be feeling some pretty big pain too, because I remember where SEEB was when he was over on the ask, and it was at a much less price than 7 cents. So it's looking like SEEB may be trying, their motivation has all of a sudden popped up dramatically because they're at the best bid up alongside somebody else. So is SEEB, maybe they're short, you know, maybe, but remember, at the end of the day, who really cares? What's been going on with the price here? Started out here at 6 and now we're up at 7. The price is going up. Excellent. So who really cares if shorting or anything's going on? We're learning what is making the price go up, yes, but at the end of the day, does the what really matter? No, it's just, is it going up? And yes, it is. So excellent. As traders, that's what we care about. That's what level 2 is showing us, but it's giving us some insight over here about, this might have some more room to go up. Now, what are you thinking here from the size of the box? Size of the box, potential resistance right here. 2 market makers at 0.071, you know, relative to all the other levels that just have 1. You know, technically, you know, that's double the, you know, price here that any other ones have. Only 1 here, but all of a sudden 2. So now, you know, as a trader, I would be thinking at least, all right, here's a big test coming, 0.071. You know, big test here. Size of the box. There's a couple. Let's see if the price can push through here. But at the end of the day, the price is going up. Excellent. We know that, yes, it's going up because of shorting. And remember who caused all this? Remember when Arca made that first move to go up above 6 cents? That kind of really drew the interest of other people. Well, you know, shorts aren't so evil anymore, are they? When they're helping the price go up, helping to build the bid. And because I always get a little too passionate and get ahead of myself, maybe I've covered some of this, but let's just go through this anyways. If not, at least you have some more notes here of what I was just talking about. But are you seeing the problem here? We've just covered it. Both traders that went short are now wanting out. How do we know they both want out? That's bad wording. I should have said, how do we have an idea that they both want out? Because you never know anything for sure. Well, there we go. I covered myself. While it is impossible to know for sure, level 2s lead us to a couple very logical conclusions. there was ass slapping, and then immediately afterwards, ARCA was the best bid. Not some immediately after, because remember, the computer program says, all right, buy everything at 7, and then so they try to get it some at 7, and then 7 was gone because it was a limit order. ARCA is going to stop at 7. So instantaneously, there would have been ass slaps, and then boom, ARCA is the best bid. That's just because they were trying to get everything at 7. This tells me they attempted to get shares at 7, but were not filled, so therefore they are now the best bid. That's what happened there, and that's what happens a lot. Is if somebody is all of a sudden the best bid after a bunch of ass slaps, then they were either buying or not. Either they were buying. Now whether or not they were covering a short or not, you don't know that, but who really cares? They're buying. They're slapping the ass. That's what we want to see. Second, SEEB had disappeared from level 2, but now shows up only on the bid. So not only does he show up on the bid, he's actually the best bid too. Only on the bid is a very key thing here. He's not even on the ask anymore. So you combine this with the logical conclusion that SEEB has a whole lot of shares. Remember, because when SEEB disappeared from the ask, it was immediately after. There was a bunch of huge bid whacks. So now you're thinking, all right, yeah, I remember when all those 6-cent bid whacks went through, and then SEEB, as soon as those orders were done, immediately was gone. Well, just like ARCA trying to buy at the ask, SEEB was bid whacking. So the computer algorithms were saying, I'm going to sell everything I can at 6. They were able to sell everything at 6. So as soon as those orders showed up on the tape, SEEB disappeared from the ask. Or, SEEB could have moved back to represent another client at, a higher up price. But SEEB isn't even on the ask anymore. So now, besides the problem of competing with one another, because as you saw, they're both the best bid, they're both trying to cover and buy, this is going to continue to draw the attention of traders who simply want to buy so they can go long. So this just adds a whole nother layer of competition onto things. Not only are the shorts competing to try to cover, to buy, now other people are going to say, hey, look at this action. The bid's moving up quickly. There's some big ass slaps going on. I think I want to try to get in. Well, of course, the shorts, they don't like that because they just want to get out. Other people now want to get in. But for shorts to get out, they have to what? Buy. So do you see the massive issue here and why shorts are actually pretty nice to have around? You have people wanting to get out, which means buying, but you also have people wanting to get in, which is buying. So end of the day, everybody wants to get in. Sure, there's different reasons for why they want to get in, but everybody wants to get in. You have shorts and now normal people wanting to go long. It's a beautiful storm, and that's why people that are blaming shorts, it's such a joke because boy, oh boy, guaranteed buyers, great thing to have around. So now let's talk about diluting. Talk about some key principles and things to remember and consider. With diluting, shares are sold, but the shares that are sold do not need to be bought back by the person who is selling them. That is the key difference compared to shorting. Hopefully you realize that's a pretty big key difference. They are shares sold, but they do not need to be bought back. In other words, they do not create any sort of guaranteed buyers. In some instances, third-party financiers have bought shares, but there's two very important distinctions here. First, they were already bought at a previous time. Their buying does not create any sort of momentum or support. Remember, shorts, their buying can either create momentum by buying from people on stage, hitting the ask, or their buying can create support by buying out in the audience or buying over on the bid. So, but with these purchases from third-party financiers, they've already been bought. Usually off the market, restricted shares. I'm not going to get into all that. Point being here, their buying doesn't do anything in terms of momentum or support. On top of that, they were bought at a massive discount to whatever the current share price is. So there is some motivation for getting good prices, but at the end of the day, they can basically sell for whatever they want, and they're going to be happy about it. They're putting their gas in their yachts. They're going to be happy. They got these shares at a massive discount. So diluting, lack of guaranteed buyers, any buying that has taken place from financiers, it's already been done, not creating any support or momentum. So, is it the evil diluters, or is it diluting, or is it is it the evil shorters, or is it the evil diluters that might be the evil thing, or is it diluting that might be evil? I don't know. When you actually stop and think about it, shorters at least produce guaranteed buyers, but diluting, from what Clay you're saying, is, if it's the company doing it, they don't have to buy anything back. And if it's financiers, the buying has already happened. So, I don't. Shorting actually doesn't sound too evil. That almost sounds attractive. This diluting thing, though, that sounds like it'd be a little bit more harmful to the price actually being able to go up. Well, let's keep on moving. Now, scenario 4. Perhaps you noticed, but I actually started to creep in dilution throughout the setups of when we were talking about scenarios. How did I do this? Well, where are these MMs at showing up over here? We have Billy Bob here. He is the CEO, and he's just looking to straight up dilute. He doesn't have to buy anything back. He's never bought in any shares. He is, he's a company man, and he is just looking to dilute stock and sell it out to the market. We have Vert here, who is a financer in VNDM. Remember when VNDM thought, hey, I got some massive shares. Let's see if I can happen. So they're sitting up here at 12 cents. Again, just to reiterate, we have no idea how many shares they're going to try to sell because that, penny stocks, that's just the default size. So limited in that amount, but, at least with reputations, we can start to at least gauge. Now, they could be innocent, and maybe they're not going to dilute, or if they dilute, it's going to be in a very moderate amount, so it's not going to hold the price down. But now we're starting to see some more things. We're going to go on kind of the tail of, the diluters. However, the big distinction here is, where are the MMs on the bid side that are starting to show up, showing that they might want to sell. Well, let's first look at Billy Bob here, sitting there at 0.07. Sitting, let's see, down here at 0.053. Now, through the scenario, you can go back and look. Remember, VFin, he sold some shares, sold some at 7 and all that stuff. But has VFin moved at all? Nope, hasn't budged, hasn't done anything. They've been selling some shares, but they haven't budged at all over here. Something to consider. VNDM, right now, they're getting more into the action at 0.12. Where's VNDM over on the bid? Not even close. I mean, just 0001. And sometimes it's not always this, but it's usually some number that's just way off the map, way out of the current market. Same with our other financer, Vert, still way down here, 0001. Now, Vert is also way out of the market on the ask, so at this point, nothing to really consider there, but just start to take note of where the location here of the MMs, especially the locations of the ones that don't have quite the reputations that that are ideal. They don't have ideal reputations. There we go. So why are they there? Because I don't need to buy any shares. They're only selling. And yes, I'm passionate about that because it drives me nuts. I've been at this time of this recording, been in penny stocks for like 8 years, and you see it over and over again, and it's just like, come on, people. So don't listen to random strangers on message boards, social media, chat rooms, blogs. If they're sitting there and proclaiming that MMs are shorting, these evil shorters, if they were shorting, they would be active on the bid. Get that through your head. If they were shorting, they would be active on the bid. All right? Just start to realize that. When you see, I'm getting ahead of myself, but the passion, the adrenaline is flowing right now. But the locations are where they are because they don't need to buy anything. They don't need to ever slap the ask. They don't need to ever provide bid support because they're just selling. And where do the sellers reside? On the ask. Where do the buyers reside? On the bid. Do they need to buy? No. So where are they going to be on the bid? Either not on the bid or at some obscure place on the bid, or if they try to play a little game, we're going to be able to spot that too thanks to the tape. We'll get to that soon, but sorry, level 2s, you're not going to be able to hide from us if you're diluting. Sorry. And yes, I'm very passionate about this because it pet peeve of mine. Oh man. All right, let's just keep going. Don't pay any attention to the tape over here right now. That's kind of part 2 of this slide. So let's just go through what's going on right now. So a little bit of some background information here. Seeing the strong bid that has formed, we have motivation levels for the mutual fund, HDSN, and Slick Willie. They've both increased. So because they've increased, Slick Willie is willing to pay as much as 0.073 for shares. So he's going to enter a limit order of 0.073 with his puppet LAFC. Mutual fund willing to pay as much as 0.075 for shares. So what does that tell you about motivation? Mutual fund a little bit more motivated than Slick Willie, so he's going to enter in the limit order of 0.075 with HDSN. Now the two traders who are short really begin to feel the pressure. This is where the term short squeeze comes from. They're really starting to get squeezed, and both of them know that they need to make a stronger effort to cover. They're thinking, all right, time to cover, which in quote, buy. Oh, beautiful buyers, I love them. Or beautiful guaranteed buyers, love them. They need to really start to make that effort. So stockbroker Seeb is now like, all right, I'm willing to pay up as high as 0.073 to cover. So he enters in the limit order of 0.073 with this puppet Seeb. There we go. Professional trader, willing to do it at 0.07, limit order 0.07 with his puppet Arca. Now on top of this, the people outside of the market, so let's say Ballerina has a big family and they all do ballerina or ballet, excuse me, so they're all getting home. Now they're all interested, so they're thinking, all right, I'd like to maybe possibly get into the stock. Now we can't account for this as we've well established, but that's what starts to happen. They're pulling up their level 2s. They're thinking, oh, look at this market. Look at this bid. It is growing. And then the tape looks like this. So all those limit orders were entered in. And then look at here. Boom, 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 boom. Now, why did it act like that? You can go back and look at the previous level 2s. But what is this telling us? There was, let's see, 800. So that's 1,300. 15. So there's, I'll just say it like this. There's a lot of shares that were just bought at 0.017. Remember what I said about 0.017? Potential level of resistance. Yeah, it actually was a decent level of resistance. This was quite a few shares that were sitting up there to sell. But what is the next, what does the tape tell us about this level of agreement? It was broken because now there's deals and agreements being reached up there at 0.075. And these are all being reached. Let's see, this was a total of 1,000. So this was quite a bit of agreement being made up at 0.075. Do you remember who was at 0.075? I think I addressed this in the next slide, but we'll see. But yeah, point being, tape showed us, all right, yeah, there was 2 MMs there and some decent size resistance. Was it, just a straight up brick wall, unbreakable? No, but some big shares up there at 0.071, and now even bigger orders up there at 0.075. So did everybody get out? Well, we're only going to be able to answer this by looking at the level 2s now. So let's take a look. Now, if you've printed off your slides, this is where it becomes very handy because remember all those limit orders that we just went through? You're going to see all of them lined up here. You have all these people. Remember, Arca was willing to pay up to 0.072. He's still there. What does that tell us? Didn't get his shares. Seeb was willing to pay for 0.073. Still on the bid. Now at 0.073. Didn't get any shares. Slick Willie wanted to pay up to 0.073. Still on the bid, therefore didn't get any shares. HDSN, mutual fund, wanted to pay up to 0.075, still here. So that's telling us that they didn't get any shares either. So, what just happened there? Well, it tells me that there was a lot of outside people that were trying to buy too that weren't represented on the level 2s. And now, the market is just getting stronger. The bid continues to grow. Remember when we were talking about, 6 cents might be a strong support. Now it's looking like, all right, 0.073. That looks like it could be the new area of support. Well, now let's start talking about some dilution clues. The first one was the distance move. First off, do you remember how many Billy Bob sold at 0.075? Let's go back and take a look. So now let's talk about some clues here. First clue is going to be the distant move. Remember VFIN, he was at 0.05 or 0.075. Let's go take a look back there. You can see right here that over 100,000, or not 100,000, excuse me, 1,000 shares went through. But when you add the 2 zeros, 100,000 shares. So that was a big order that he had sold at 0.075. How do we know that it was him? Well, first, he was the only market maker sitting at that level. Second, he has now moved. But where has he moved to? He's moved barely at all. You can see the math here if you're curious, but that is the first clue, is when MM disappears from one level, where do they move afterwards? If they completely drop out of level 2s, great sign. But in this case, at least, especially the market, there's quite a bit of spaces here between the prices. At least he could have dropped to 0.076 or 0.077, but 0.05 or 0.0753, that's not a very big move. That's not a very big distance. So a little bit of evidence now that, okay, maybe there's some diluting going on. Second dilution clue, when the MM awake. What do I mean by that is, well, before then, if you remember Vert was at 55 cents from all the other level 2s, if you go back and look. Now all of a sudden, they're awakening, meaning they're starting to participate in the market. They want to get more in the action. At 55 cents, that was not participating in the market. But when they come in at 0.085, all right, yeah, now they're in the heat of the battle. They're trying to participate in the market. Now, is this shorting? It could be. But I would say it does not appear to be, shorting, given that Vert is still way, way down on the bid side of the box, down here at 0001. Now, are they always going to be way down like that? Not that far, but They could be. This is where it would be really obvious to me. It's like, okay, Vert just awoke, came up at 0.085, didn't even budge on the bid side. Looks like some potential dilution going on. Now, does that mean you freak out? Not right away, but it's like, okay, guilt or innocent until proven guilty, but that's a pretty big piece of evidence there that Vert may be getting ready to do some diluting. Now, what's going on with ARCA and E-Trade? Well, ARCA all of a sudden is over here on the ask. So now it's one of those things where, ARCA's over here, message boards, ARCA's playing all sorts of games now. Look at this. No, this is either the same person trying to short some more to bring up their average, or it's somebody that's completely different. We don't know. There's no way to knowing, but ARCA's now up here trying to sell 0.077. What we do know is, because of our scenario, we know our professional trader is still trying to buy. But he could be maybe trying to sell some more, but there's just no way to know, and because level 2s isn't that good. So I would say more than likely it's just probably another client that ARC is representing. Remember, Knight represents Graham and Ballerina. All these market makers that you see here, they have multiple clients that they represent, except for some of them like VFin. VFin's probably just being hired exclusively through the CEO. Sometimes VFin might be hired by a financer and the CEO, but for the majority of the retail traders or retail MMs, they're being used by many people. So my guess would be ARCA is just using some other representing some other client. Now remember our Rivervan trader E-Trade from scenario number 1. Remember that he bought at 0.055. It might be Rivervan trader or somebody else where there's over here at over here on the ask. Just showed up. So he may be looking to try to sell some shares at 0.09. So it's one of those things where you got to keep in mind, E-Trade was on the bid, totally disappeared, and now he's back on the ask over here. So you could be saying, well, look, E-Trade, they're definitely shorting because they're over here on the ask and they're not even over here on the bid. Well, let's go back through our layers of context here. First, previous video is what I'm referring to. What is the reputation of E-Trade? Just retail. Yeah, they are a retail market maker. Second, were they ever on the bid at all? Was there ever any sort of bid activity? Yeah, they were on the bid, and then an ass slap happened, and then they were gone. So that tells me that they probably hit the ask, and because they hit the ask, they got the shares that they wanted to, and are now off the bid. Now, E-Trade, this is a little unrealistic because E-Trade represents so many people that they're rarely going to just disappear from the bid. So they would still be active on the bid. But when we get to the general rules, I'll cover that. So yes, in this example, it's not perfect in the sense of E-Trade, the market makers over here. Example here, Knight would never just disappear from the ask because they have so many clients and represent so many people. They're always going to be active. But for this scenario, yeah, I could see how you might think that, but it goes back to what are reputations. No more than the context, and the context was both from not only now that you understand how they function, you also understand reputation. Combine the two. First part, what is a reputation? Retail. Second part, how do they function? Well, you saw E-Trade on the bid. They hit the ask, and immediately after the order showed up on the tape, they were gone from that best bid. So right there, good signs, good ideals in your favor that, there's no shorting, no diluting going on here by E-Trade. So let's dig back in here and take a look here. So let's just update things. So the professional trader, ARCA, and especially the stockbroker SEEB, they're really starting to panic. And I say especially SEEB because, they have a lot more shares than ARCA does. ARCA, he's not enjoying himself, but he also doesn't have, 175,000 shares short either. So they are really trying to cover now, but there's just too much competition. So now they both enter in orders or limit orders at 0.085. Let's take a look back, and this will show us their motivation. Right now, the best they could potentially get is at 0.0753, but they're willing to pay way over the market price, up as high as 0.085. So what does that tell us about the motivation? They're in pain right now. I mean, they're hoping that everything gets filled right here, yes, but 0.085, they're willing to pay up to. And this is also going to be a thing where, we're going to see how, shorting is actually the good thing, but diluting actually helps the shorters. Hopping back into the scenario here, so the message boards, the chat rooms, the social media, and the blogs, everything is buzzing about this stock. Hey, check it out. You know, the pumpers are out in full force. You know, ticker XYZ is running. You know, this draws even more people from outside the market. I mean, it's starting to, you know, social media, it's starting to get out there. I mean, ticker symbols, it's getting crazy. So the hippie, she decides, you know what, I want to just lock in some profits here. So she puts up some up for sale at 0.088. She's still, you know, willing to buy some at 6, but, you know, she wants to be disciplined. She wants to start to lock in some profits, so she decides to put some of her position up for sale at 0.088. So now the tape looks like this after, you know, remember, high motivation here, willing to pay up as high as 0.085. So we're now, like any tape, you know, you're going to start to lose track of the deals. So we have a lot of stuff going on here. So remember that at the beginning of this tape, the best offer was 0.05 or 0.0753, which was Billy Bob. So boom, 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 boom. There's all sorts of orders going off here, and boy, are they adding up. You know, let's see, 650 and 400. That's all right. So that's over 1,000, which means over 100,000. Have a couple of these weird 5,000 share orders that you tend to see, but it's nothing. There's no games going on. It's just the computer programs, the 5,000. They're just, you know, they're just popping out like that. But you have a bunch of orders just like that. So Billy Bob, again, VFin, the CEO who is diluting, just unloads another 100,000 shares. But remember, they're willing to pay up to as high as 0.085, but they're also competing against all the outside people that are getting caught up in this, just the excitement of things. So boom, 0.077, 300. You'll see this every once in a while, a couple random bid whacks. So some people were, who knows who it was. It could have been people outside the market. But some bid whacks showed up, and then look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Some big old orders up there at 0.085. I mean, big old orders up there. But remember who was sitting at 0.085? Remember where they were sitting at the bid? So just keep that in mind. This is now where it starts to come full circle. Think back to the last video. What are reputations? Do we know how many they're going to sell? No, we don't, because penny stocks don't show share size. However, look at the tape. How many MMs are sitting up at 0.085? There is just that one. If you have your handout printed out, you know, look down there at it. You can see there is just one MM sitting there at 0.085, and it was one of those financiers. So although level 2s aren't going to show us in terms of the share size how many shares there were, the tape and the prints right here, yeah, they just sold quite a bit of shares. So now let's talk about the axe. Maybe you've heard of this. So the axe is going to be an MM that appears to be controlling the stock. It's one that appears that they're either pushing it up or pushing it down. So let's quickly look at level 2s here real quick and get a grasp of what's going on. So we had ARCA and SEEB willing to pay up to 0.085. Do you notice anything about ARCA? They're finally gone. How do we know that they're finally gone? Well, now actually in this case we do know, because they are finally nowhere on the bid. So do we know what they covered at? No, they could have gotten their shares covered. Any of those orders, you know, maybe even that bid whack that happened, maybe that helped them out in the process. We don't know that, but it's one of those things where they are out because ARCA is no longer participating on the bid anymore. But what does that tell? What does everything tell us about SEEB? SEEB is still trying to cover shares because he wanted to try to buy everything up to 0.085, but with all that competition going on, he clearly still didn't get everything because now he is at the best bid. So 0.085. Remember when we were talking about the ask being at 0.06? Now we're up to 0.085. Best bid. So at this point, you could really start to see, all right, SEEB has been pretty active. It seems like whenever ask slaps happen, immediately when those purchases are done, he seems to always be the best bid. So this is where you would say, all right, it looks like SEEB is the axe. They are appears to be controlling the stock. And yeah, do you understand why they're controlling the stock in this? Is it for any evil reasons? Is it for because they're trying to manipulate anything? No, they're just trying to cover their shares. So if you kind of noticed that right away, knew where I was going, good job. If you said, well, no, ARCA would probably be an axe too. I'll give you partial credit for that just because, yes, they were helping to push up the stock, but because SEEB had so many shares, it was one of those things where, that's why. So, why or how is SEEB controlling the price? The why, they are heavily short. And the how, they are extremely motivated to cover and buy. So they're, not that the why and how matter. Well, the how does, because they're motivated to buy. But why? Who cares if they're short and buying, or who cares if they're just somebody that wants to buy to go long? Point is, they are buying, and at this point, they're buying from people up on stage because they're, heavily motivated. And following the axe can be very profitable, but you need to be able to recognize it. A lot of people are always calling out such and such as the axe. No, that's not. Knight always gets claimed as the axe. Yeah, Knights, helps kind of control the price up and down a little bit, but that's just because they represent so many people. But when you can find an obvious axe that's not one of the typical, Knights or retail traders, that's a good sign, especially an axe on the bid. Axes on the bid, like SEBA's right here, that's actually a sign that some sort of squeeze may be going on. But it doesn't happen every single day. I mean, there's definitely times where you're like, oh yeah, there's a short squeeze going on, and it looks like, these two market makers are probably the ones that are caught short because they just keep appearing on the best bid even after a bunch of ass slaps happen. But that's not always going to happen. So, but the axe is a term that gets thrown around, and it needs to be addressed. But in this case, SEB is the axe, and hey, look, it was a short that was the ask, and they're not driving the price down. Now let's quickly here talk about Vert and what they're pretty much up to right now. So Vert, remember, was at 0.085. Let's just review the tape real quick. 0.085. I think we can all agree that was quite a bit of orders that went on there. Over 300,000 shares were purchased there at 0.085 from Vert. How do we know it was just Vert? Well, again, they were the only market maker there. Now, so that's the first. The tape shows us that, but remember that first clue for dilution in terms of movement? Let's take a look at that. So although it wasn't as obvious as VFin's short little movement there, they still only went to 0.087, and now they're still the best ask. So, that's a little bit bizarre. Let's just double check. Were they over on the bid side of things? Still way down there. Interesting. So they just sold over 300,000 shares at 0.085. Now they're at 0.087 to sell some more. Who's been buying? Because they're not very active over here. Again, the evidence is really starting to mount that, Vert may very well be diluting and not some evil short up there. But the financiers, they're not stupid. They understand psychology. They know what's going on. They know that, people like myself who understand, how this stuff works, they know what I'm looking for, and they know what you're going to now be looking for. So this is where manipulation comes in to try to hide dilution. So the third-party financer wants to move up and create the illusion that there's a best bid, or that there's a tight spread, and that the bid is, creating even, or that the bid is increasing even more. So they're going to increase their bid up to 0.086 to show that they want to buy. So now the bid ask is 0.086 by 0.087. Now, is this because they want to buy shares? Absolutely not. Their motivation is they don't want anyone to get suspicious. Well, at least not the traders who understand level 2. Now, at this point, you have to give them, okay, innocent until proven guilty. Maybe Vert is shorting, and now they want to, cover their shares. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were diluting, or maybe they were shorting that whole time, because now look, they're on the best bid, and they're also trying to just create more buying pressure. They want people to think, hey, look, they're shorting. Now Vert's trying to cover, all that sort of stuff. Well, then an order hits the tape all of a sudden, and it's for 25,000 shares at 0.086, and Vert drops way back down below, where the current market is. Were they? No. I mean, so what am I trying to get at? How many shares have they been selling? Well over 300,000 shares, and now they're still on the best ask. They show up on the best bid, and then they only take 25,000 shares. Does that make any sense? If they were shorting, I would feel like they'd want to cover a lot more than just 25,000 shares. So if 25,000 is the amount that knocked them back off the bid, that's just them playing a game, trying to hide the fact that they are diluting by trying to express interest that they're, want to buy some stock. So keep that in mind. Just because somebody shows up on the bid, you want to take notes of, well, how many are they actually buying on the bid compared to what's been happening on the ask. So my question to you is, was this manipulation done to bring the price down or to push it up? I actually love this manipulation. As traders, we should love this manipulation that Vert is doing, because they're trying to create more buying pressure. I don't know about you, but I like buying pressure. So this whole thing of MMs want cheap shares, I mean, what a joke that is. If anything, MMs want the price higher because MMs who are representing their clients want to share or sell their shares for as much price as possible. VFin and Billy Bob want to get as much money for their shares as possible. And is that going to happen by driving the price down and trying to get cheap shares? That's so stupid. It makes no sense. Do shorts want the price to go down lower? Yes. But what are they going to be doing? They're going to be buying all the way back down. So it's going to be hard for the price to go down. Do you understand? That's why I make shorts great. They have to buy. So yeah, they want the price to go down, but it's kind of like a catch-22. Yeah, they want the price to crash, but at some point they got to become buyers. And when they become buyers, they are providing support or creating momentum. Dilution, not the case. Those people, they want to make it appear like the stock is fine and steady, but they're not trying to drive the price down to get any cheap shares. No, they want to sell. They want to sell shares for as much as possible. So it's just such a joke when you see, the price falling and they're blaming it on the shorters, and yet it's VFin or Vert. Why are they at the best ask? Why do they keep continually being at the best ask? Yet they're never on the bid, or if they are on the bid, it's this little manipulation game here where they buy a small amount and then they disappear again. No, we should love manipulation because manipulation is done to make the price look like it's good, to make the price look like it's going to keep going on or keep going up. So if anything, keep that in mind. Is this a universal rule? Is it every single stinking time that they're trying to manipulate it to get it go up? No, but if there's dilution going on, think about that. They're going to manipulate it. They're going to try to play games to get the price to go up. They're going to create the illusion that there's, a lot of people interested in the stock. So keep that in mind. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this. We'll have this be part 1. Still got to go over the general rules. That way I can kind of summarize what these scenarios have all been going over. But we will cover all this stuff. So if you feel kind of like, oh, that was a lot of stuff, now we're going to go over some general rules, some general principles. That way you can kind of just have a broad scope of things of what you should be looking for with all these sort of dynamics here.